what if someone doesn't have any money to invest? How is this helpful?
So I think a good start is to look at your home and see what do you have that is stuff. Like we've learned to turn money into things, but things can also be turned into money. So just look at
time.
And time. Good point. So what do you have at home that you're not using that could be worth money?
This week we received an email from our listener Anna, and she shared a problem that she has. She said, "I don't like the job that I currently have. My boss is very demanding and I'm stressed out. I wake up early and I spend an hour every morning in rush hour traffic. I would love to be able to focus on my passion, which is to create music. The problem is that I cannot afford to quit my job. I only make $15 per hour, and because I'm working so much, every time I come home, I'm too tired. I don't have any energy or time to focus on my music. What can I do?"
If you have a similar situation like Anna, we believe that this episode is perfect for you. Because we're going to dive into the concept of the purpose for money is to buy time. And once you understand this concept, that's like taking a big leap towards financial freedom and living a life on your terms.
And I am here with, as always, my friend and the founder of Great.com, Erik Bergman. Great is our company that gives away 100% of its profits to help the environment. And Erik is a special guy because before he was 30, he made over $50 million creating his previous company, Catena Media, that went from 0 to 300 employees in just 5 years. And he's also very much passionate about teaching personal development and business to his over 180,000 Instagram followers. Hey, Erik.
Hey, Emil. Thank you for that introduction. And if you're new here, I'm here with Emil, who is my good friend and also was the first one joining me in Great.com over 2 years ago now. And he's the host of this podcast. He's also the host of our other charity podcast called Great.com Talks With. And on the side of Great, he is a personal development coach and runs a business separately doing that. But most importantly, I would say that he is my creative sparring partner. He is the guy I love learning things with and creating this podcast, but also stuff for YouTube and Instagram. And we simply learn very well together.
I love the body language of sparring partner.
For you who don't see right now, I'm boxing into the air.
Right. And if you are new here, this is the Becoming Great.com podcast. A podcast for you who wants to make the world, or just your own life too for that matter, better through business and personal development. And today's episode, the goal that we have is to shift your mindset around money, to think of it of time. And the purpose of that is to give you more freedom. And today's episode is in 4 parts. In the first part, we're going to talk about how it comes that we're thinking of money as a way to buy things and where that is coming from. In the second part, we're going to look at what happens when we shift the mindset to thinking of money as time instead of things. In the third part, we are going to talk about a beginner-friendly guide to investing as a way for you to create more free time for the stuff that you really love in the future. And finally, in the fourth part, we are going to answer Anna's question and take a look at what we would do in her situation to get more passion into her life. So what would you say is a common way that people view the purpose of money?
So if I'm looking back at my life, the purpose of money for me has been to turn it into stuff and things that I want. Like, I've probably even seen it as paper that yet haven't been the things that I want to. And I've never really thought about money in a different way than that. And I'm guessing that that's because, well, money is, when you buy things, it's like something you can touch on, like something concrete, or you can see all of these movies, the happy people with cars, or all these commercials, people want you to buy things. And I believe all companies have like a financial incentive to get you to think that money is meant to buy stuff. And that's like the most common, that's how they make money. If you don't think that money is for buying stuff, well, then you're not going to buy their stuff. So they spend billions and billions and billions to get you to think of money as something to buy stuff. But yeah, what's another way to think of what money can be?
First, I need to confess that I'm one of those people that it worked on. I like things. And what I also like is to do things, spend my time doing projects and things that I really enjoy. So what's been helpful for me is to compare those two. So let's say that I make $15 per hour.
Yeah, like Anna did.
Yeah, like Anna did. Okay, so let's say Anna makes $15 per hour. Now, if she's buying a shirt for $45, she can also view that as 3 hours of time that she could be spent pursuing her dream of music.
Yeah, and especially if she don't even like her job, that's like 3 hours of pain and suffering that she puts in to get that shirt.
Yeah, and commuting and shit. She don't get
she don't even get paid for it.
Yeah,
it's true.
Yeah, or let's say that she could lower her costs somehow. Let's say that if she got a roommate, or if she moved back to her parents, or moved to a cheaper apartment, and she could save $300 per month doing that. If she makes $15 per hour, that's 20 hours per month she can spend doing music. That's 5 hours every week.
Yeah, that's a lot of time.
Yeah, and that might over time be enough to turn the music into a full-time job or become really good at it.
Yeah. Okay, so you could turn it into time and you could turn it kind of into hours, but you don't have a job. You cannot just stop working this and that many hours that week. How would that work?
Well, few people have that luxury. If you have the luxury to just lower your cost and then work less, that's very
perfect.
Interesting opportunity. But what you could do as well is you can start saving and preferably investing your money so that after a time you have enough to take some time off work or maybe go a year without working and really, really focus on your passion, giving it a shot.
Yeah, so let's say you saved up enough money to actually take a month unpaid, and that would be when you can translate it into time, so have a full month of doing that.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes
You're saving up for future time.
Yeah. Okay, so that's a good start. So there's plenty of more ways to get more time from your money. Let's look into some of them.
If you are someone that wants to turn your passion into a full-time business, what I would value the most in the whole world would be my time. And money can to some extent buy you time. But it's tricky to start making more money. Both get a better job or investment takes a lot of time. What's much quicker is to lower your costs. That can be done almost instantly. So Erik, how can someone do that?
One quote that comes to mind is from a guy named Naval Ravikant, who I really admire.
Yeah.
And he says that people living far below your means have a freedom that people constantly upgrading their lifestyles simply can't understand. And what he refers to when he says this is that if you, let's say early on in your career, make $10 an hour, and maybe in the end of your career you make $100 an hour, that's going to take a long progression. And every time we get an increase in salary, we tend to upgrade our lifestyle a little bit. We get a little bit better car, a little bit more clothes, a little bit more fancy apartment. And we tend to always upgrade our lifestyle at the same time as we get more pay. So it feels like we don't have more money. We don't have more time. We're just digging ourselves into this. And we're talking about this in episode 3 when we did the corporate ladder trap episode. So if you haven't checked that out, I'll go and listen to that one. But I think it's so interesting to think about not upgrading your lifestyle, but maybe downgrading your lifestyle and getting more money in general. Because if you just keep your costs low, you can have so much more freedom.
So what kind of costs can someone take away? I guess it's a word that can be a bit tricky for some people.
Yeah, I mean, what would you say? What do you spend the most money on each month?
My rent, my car, yeah.
Yeah, so probably rent and is the biggest one for most people, I would say. And what you can do is, well, a lot of things. You could either get a roommate, you could maybe move in with your partner. I know this is something you're contemplating right now. Let's take your example. How much is your rent?
It is $800 per month.
Okay, and you're now considering to move in with your girlfriend, or have your girlfriend move in with you.
Mm-hmm.
So that would split the rent in half.
Yeah, that would be $400 extra per month.
So for just living with her, you would save $400 a month. And let's say if this was Anna and she had the same math, making $15 an hour, that's the equal of like working almost 30 hours extra. Well, that you would just save up from that.
It's almost a whole day every week. Not really, but almost.
So a great way of saving money is to start by looking at what's your biggest expense. And that's rent and car is probably the most common ones. And see, can I get a roommate? Could I move in with someone? Could maybe I live with my parents for a while?
Yeah.
And it's important to understand this is not like the permanent future solution, but this is to kind of build your first like bucket of money for freedom.
Mm.
So what are other common expenses you think where you could save up money?
One that I often forget about are things like old subscriptions that I have done, small things that adds up, like taking a taxi or going to restaurants.
Yeah, I think it's great answers. And I believe a way to kind of get an understanding of what you pay your money for is to take the last 1 month or 3 months of like receipts from the bank, like your credit card statement or whatever, and just go through and calculate how much did you spend on Netflix or Spotify or taxi rides and food. Kind of see what could I take away from there. Maybe you find things that you're paying for that you're not even using, like some old TV sports network that you're actually not watching or whatever that could be. And just looking at these prescriptions, looking at these things, I think you'll get a lot of value from that.
Yeah, for sure. And something you often talk about is to stay away from debt. What does debt mean for your ability for freedom?
Yeah, so what's interesting with, if you buy something on a credit card, for example, let's go back to this shirt you spoke about before. So it's $45 shirt, and if you pay it on with cash, then you pay it with 3 hours you have already worked and made that money. But if you pay it on a credit card, you pay it with hours you're going to work in the future. So you're kind of taking away hours from your future instead.
You take time from future self.
Yeah, exactly. You take time for your future self. And even worse than that is that credit card exists because they can take interest and charge you more. So instead of paying $45 for the shirt, you might end up paying $50 or even $60 due to the credit card fees and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's, you take more time from your future self to get something you want right now.
Right. And I'm thinking to myself, I wouldn't buy stuff on a credit card. But then it's like, I actually bought my phone on sort of a credit card. I didn't pay
one
anything.
Of these payment plans.
Yeah, I didn't pay anything up ahead. So that's kind of like buying a phone with future me's time.
Yeah, exactly. It's a big difference. So if you earn first and spend later, that's a good way to like improving your life in general. But if you spend first and then you kind of have to work it back, you're always going to be in debt to your future self.
Right.
And that's just not a good place to be in.
Right. So these are some ways to lower your cost. I bet if you're a bit creative, you can maybe come up with even more. Maybe you can sell stuff. So now let's move on to part 3 of this podcast, where we talk about how you can create tiny little money machines that over time will give you the freedom that you desire.
If you have some money saved up, then you can make that money grow if you start investing. And when you start investing today, that actually means that you're giving yourself more time in the future.
more time to pursue your passion and music or whatever you're into. But what if someone doesn't have any money to invest? How is this helpful?
So I think a good start is to look at your home and see what do you have that is stuff. Like we've learned to turn money into things, but things can also be turned into money. So just look at
Time.
And time. Good point. So what do you have at home that you're not using that could be worth money?
I have 2 guitars. I'm mostly using one.
Yeah, so that's like a perfect thing. That's probably worth a few $100 or something like that.
For sure.
So you could sell that, and you could probably sell a lot of the clothes in your wardrobe that you're not using, or maybe some old ice skates or a watch and a phone. Like most of us have some things lying around that we could sell. And to start investing, you don't need a lot of money. It's a big and scary word in a sense, and it's easy to think that you need a lot. But if you have $100, that's definitely enough to start investing and doing something with it. And let's say you manage to get to $1,000, then you're starting to see results of investing. So what would you do with $1,000?
Investing?
Yeah.
You mean? I would put it into an index fund, which is mine and Erik's favorite way of investing. So tell us why that is, why we're choosing that strategy.
Yeah, so index fund. Well, to start with, we are not financial advisors. We are not professionals, but this is what we are doing. So if you want to copy us, feel free. If don't. But index funds it's a way to invest in lots of different companies at once. So instead of buying shares in Apple, for example, you buy in maybe 1,000 different companies at once. And this is done by a mathematical, that's a complicated word. Yeah, you buy all of them and it's a computer that makes the decision. It's not an expensive person. So it's not high fees and stuff like that. And you spread the risk over a lot of different companies. And this is like S&P 500 is an index fund that is great. But we also did a different episode when we talked more or less only about index funds and why we came to this conclusion. And I think that's episode 18, Finance Made Simple. So if you want to hear more about index funds, go and check that episode out. Okay, let's take this $1,000 and you invest them in index funds. What can you expect?
You can expect something close to 10% extra money as a result every year.
So if you have $1,000, that would be $100 extra each month, which would
each
be
year. So
yeah, each
like
year,
$8 per month.
$8 per month. Okay, so if we compare this then to, like, I like what you said about positive subscriptions when we started planning for this episode. Like, if you have a Netflix, that's a subscription we're probably paying, I don't know, $10 a month. And this could be like a positive subscription. So by just having $1,000 in index funds, you actually get almost $10 per month back. So it's the opposite, where you start doing things to give yourself more time and freedom in the future instead of taking it away.
Yeah, and you're also saving that money. So that you can use if you want to spend some time not working, doing music full time. And you also get this positive subscription all the time from having it saved, invested.
Yeah, and I think it's a crucial part is that this is not a complicated thing to get started with.
No.
Pretty much every bank, the bank you already have, can help you with this. And there are lots of different ways of doing it, but it's easy and definitely worth doing.
Building tiny little money machines or time machines. Is that what that word means?
Yeah, that's actually what it means.
That's what it means.
That's the realistic time machine.
Right, that's a real time machine.
Yeah.
Interesting. So let's move on to the fourth and final part of this episode, where we answer Anna's email and look what we would do in her situation to pursue the passion of music. Okay, so what should Anna do to pursue her love of music? Should she just quit her job and go for it?
No.
No?
No, quitting your job is a horrible advice to give in a situation like this, I would say, because it means taking a lot of risk and trying to make money from the music as fast as possible.
And pressure to succeed as well.
Yeah, putting a lot of pressure and maybe even taking the fun away. That if she has to make money from the music, she might not create the music that she really wants to. So quitting her job and add a lot of pressure to this is actually, I believe, is not very helpful advice. But yeah, what would you do?
The first thing is to shift your mindset, like we spoke about in this episode to think of money as time instead of things, and realize that the quickest way of getting more money and therefore more time is to lower your cost. Look at simple ways to do that with rent, subscriptions, maybe even selling things, and then start to invest the money that you save, and preferably a little bit of money each month, into an investment.
Oh yeah, that's a good thing. Like a little money each month.
Yeah.
I think that's something we haven't touched upon.
And that is money that as soon as you get your salary, let's say your goal is to save $200 per month, that goes into your savings account, your Freedom Future Fund, before you start spending anything.
Yeah, that's great advice.
Yeah. And that is it. And this is not a quick fix. It's a slower process, but it's also very likely that it will succeed. Slow and steady, like a turtle.
Yeah, and I think an important thing to keep in mind when you start doing this is that you're taking action.
Yeah.
And I think one of the most depressing things about being in Anna's situation is that you want change, but you don't know how to change.
And she feels stuck.
But by just starting to do this and see every month there is a little bit more money in the bank account, you know that you're a little bit closer to that freedom. And I believe that it will be a lot less painful to be stuck in morning traffic if you know, yes, but I'm getting closer to my dream. I'm getting closer to my dream.
And 1 year later, she knows that she will be closer to her dream.
Exactly. So I think this is an important understanding. Like, it gives you patience as well to see I'm actually getting closer.
Yeah.
It's really hard with patience if you're feeling completely stuck.
Yeah.
Where would you recommend her to go for more advice if she wants more advice about this?
From the most reliable source ever, which is...
I know that one.
Yeah, it's us. You should take more advice from us. Now, I think you should go and check out episode number 66 of the BecomingGreat.com podcast, which is called How to Make $1,000 Extra per Month Online. And that will give you another mindset of how to start making more money as well, to start putting into your money time machine.
Yeah, so that would be
a cool word.
Money time machine.
Yeah.
That's a badass word.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see something that you just pull, whatever it's called, and then you start hearing like the sounds of a slot machine, and then you like find yourself in some big vaults of the like Inca Indians or something like filled with gold, and then you just go back in time and you bring money time machine. Yeah, we'll tell you about how to build a real money time machine in another episode. Okay, so
Let's wrap up. And if someone listened to this and they enjoyed it, what can they do to help us?
Yes, if you like this episode and you want us to keep doing conversations like this, you can be of great help. And the most valuable thing you can do for us is to press subscribe on this podcast in any podcast app or on YouTube for that matter. And the reason why that is so important is that all these different top lists, and you can see for podcasts in iTunes and stuff, they're actually not based on who have the most listeners. They're based on who have the most percentage subscribing. So even if we're a teeny tiny podcast, and we still are, then you will actually make a big impact by just subscribing to this podcast. So please go and press subscribe. And hey, let's see you next week. Shabam!
Smack!